Beautiful music. Hopefully Facebook is with us now. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. So glad to see so many smiling faces. All right, it is 11 o'clock. So I think we'll begin. There we go. Good morning, everyone. So good to see everyone. I'm not sure how many are here. We've got 21, looks like, on Zoom, but I don't know how many are on Facebook. But however, whoever's here, welcome. And we're glad you joined us. It is, as someone said, it's a lot deja vu feeling for those who are members during the pandemic, where we did this every week for a long time. And some of you probably are on Zoom for work or other things, but some of you, maybe you haven't been on Zoom for a while. You probably haven't missed it. And they've changed a couple little things. It's basically the same for work. One thing, just by way of quick training for you, I am going to be sharing my screen a lot during this service. And so hopefully you can see those slides. I want you to be able to see me too. There is a thing on your screen, a slider, a vertical bar that you can move right and left to make the slide smaller and make me bigger, or Renee, or whoever's on screen at the time. I won't get any more technical than that. If it works for you, fine. If it doesn't, that's all right. Hopefully you can at least hear me, and hopefully also you'll be able to see the slides when we're using them. I want everyone to know that the leaders took very seriously the decision to not meet in person today. It was a very difficult call, and it went up to yesterday and different people going up to the building. And the biggest problem really is the side streets, especially Oakland, which is the street everyone uses to enter our building. That street had not melted. And we really erred on the side of caution. I mean, if one person were to fall and hurt themselves, that would mean we had made the wrong decision. So even though most of the primary roads are fine, and even most of the side roads are fine today, that's why we made that call. So good you're here. It will be a different type service than usual, kind of streamlined. Basically, Renee and I will be going back and forth. Renee doing our music and joys and concerns and chalice lighting and extinguishing, and I'll be bringing the message at the appropriate time. The topic today, what is humanism? And this is the beginning of what we hope will be a series, kind of an off and on series on what is ... So today, what is humanism? Next week, Dr. Doug Kruger will talk about what is atheism, which has a lot of overlap with today's message, but he's actually a trained philosopher and has actually written a book called What is Atheism? But in the future, we want to do messages on what is Buddhism, what is Judaism, what is progressive Christianity, what is Islam, what is paganism, and so forth. So for the next few months, every few weeks, we'll do one of these, what is. So glad you could join us as we kick off the series with what is humanism. Based on a survey that was done a number of years ago at our fellowship, about half the members identify themselves as humanists. I don't know today what the numbers would be. That might be interesting. In fact, if we were meeting in person, I thought of asking for a show of hands. But I'm guessing a lot of us, maybe around half, would identify as humanists. But what does that mean? Is humanism a religion? Do you have to be an atheist to be a humanist? How do humanists decide what's right and what's wrong? So these are some of the questions we'll be delving into in just a minute. Renee is going to start us off with the chalice lighting.
I thought I might sing a little song first, if that sounds okay for our gathering music. I co-wrote this piece with one of my students back in 2018, and this was part of her process of coming to terms with the letting go of her childhood understanding of God and moving into a humanist understanding of spirituality. Her name is Ryan Youngmeyer, and I am, it's been a minute since I've done this song, but I'm excited to present it for you today. Like a criminal, I feel like I might kick myself out of my home, and I've tried so hard. I haven't seen you try at all. Can you lift me up out of my pain? But silence is what I'm getting time and time and time again. The stories are unraveling. I'm holding on to a thread. I need more than the suspicions filling my head. Won't you show me? Show me. Take my hand and open up the door. Because I just can't believe anymore. Show me, show me, where were you in my time of need? It's getting harder and harder to believe. Yesterday I walked in the rain. I swear that I could have kept walking all day, and right before my legs would quit, I would see my strength and maybe laugh a bit. I walk around with my big smile, just hoping to help someone who feels like I fell for a while. And sometimes they smile back. That woman, she knew that I needed that. Sometimes we just need a sign. Show me, show me. Take my hand and open up the door, because I just can't believe anymore. Show me, show me, where were you in my time of need? It's getting harder and harder to believe. I need something, my faith in you is not getting me by. I need something that I can hold on to at night. You reassure me, make me promises you can't keep. I need reassure me, make me promises you can't keep. I need something, it's getting too hard for me to believe. Won't you show me, yeah, show me, won't you show me, oh, won't you show me, show me, where were you in my time of need? It's getting harder and harder to believe.
Oh, how beautiful. Thank you, Renee.
Ready for the chalice lighting now?
Yes, let me share that screen. And you need to change your sound back to original music.
I appreciate that. Friends, let's light the chalice together today. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in the truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together. In religious community, we share our joys and our triumphs, our sorrows and our broken places. Today's joys and concerns will look a little bit different. I'm hoping that our beloveds on Facebook will go ahead and type their joys or their concerns or their milestones in the chat. And I would hope that we would, if you toggle to the bottom of your screen, there is a button that says chat. And if you would like to share a joy or a concern or a milestone today on the Zoom chat, we would also really love to hear from you. We have meaningful moments that come up in our lives because love is what connects us, and love is made up of many, many, many different feelings and events. In our little boxes, our little Zoom boxes and Facebook today, we make space for the complexity of life, the myriad experiences that bless and break our hearts. The truth of human experience dictates that on any given day, we each come to the table with hearts in different places. We love through interaction, and even though we can't be together in person today, this is a way of interaction. Our gathering is very important, no matter if it's virtual or live. When love is at the center of our gathering, and when the outcome of our gathering is joy, we are partaking in a fierce form of resistance. Fear and hate cannot thrive where love and joy are the norms. Fear and hate will not be planted and grow. We Unitarian Universalists believe that it is in the gathering and in the brave task of sharing ourselves that creates and grows trust and connection in the world. That this is how we come not only to marvel at, but to engage in the depth and movement of the spirit of life, of the human experience, and of the interconnection of which we're all just a tiny part. And so we are creating the space together. All right.
All right. Hey, I need to give a shout out, we both do, to David Thurstonson, our amazing tech guy who's made this so much easier, and somehow the magic of being on Zoom and Facebook, which he said, piece of cake. But we had a dress rehearsal to get ready for this service, and the music was an issue, but he figured that out, how Renee could play music and it would pick up her voice and the piano. So thanks also to Fawn and Christina and Carol Olson and Leanda, who are all part of our Zoom team, tech team this week.
Yeah, it really does take a village, and David helped run the village this week. I'm very, very grateful for you, David, and all of you.
And
Well, Jean, would you mind putting up that slide that talks about our offering? It is time for our offering, and it's weird on Zoom. It's weird to have an offering on Zoom and Facebook. But it's worth it because for me, at least, you giving to UUFF is a spiritual practice. It isn't just good for the church. It isn't just good for our congregation. It's good for my practice as a spiritual creature. We give to remind ourselves that we have many gifts to offer, and we give to remember that we're a part of something bigger than ourselves. And we give because we believe in meaningful Sunday services and music and ritual and justice and sacred space. We give that with the faith, together we will have enough. So let this be our moment of offering for UUFF. You see there how you can give through text or through uufayetteville.org. Okay, thanks, y'all.
yes, we thought about sending ushers to everyone's house in 4-wheel drives, but we're not doing that. And all right. Okay. I think am I spotlit? And let me, all right, get everything set up here. All right. What is humanism is the topic for today. If you grew up like I did in the 70s or 80s, secular humanism was something, at least growing up in a conservative Christian environment, secular humanism was something to be greatly feared and hated because it was the threat. You know, it seems there's some people in our world, they need someone to be scared of, someone to hate, the other. And sometimes in our past, it's been Native Americans, African Americans, immigrants, communists, various, radicals, Jews, Catholics, gay people. I mean, we could go on and on down the list. Today, I feel like it's trans and DEI, like they're out to get us. We got to stop them. Well, in the 70s and 80s, it was secular humanists. They're taking over the world and we got to stop them. And some of you may remember this book, Tim LaHaye, who also wrote the Left Behind series. That's a whole nother sermon. But the whole book was about the dangers of secular humanism. And the quote here is from Josh McDowell, which if you know, you know. But this was on the back. They had various quotes. And he talked about the stranglehold of humanism on life in America, and that it's having a corrosive impact on the morality of America, but now it can be stopped. The moral majority fueled a lot of its growth on fear and antipathy towards secular humanism. So that's one, I guess, approach on what it is. Let me go back, though, a few hundred years. The first time that humanism really came into the vocabulary was in Italian, Humanismo. And it was talking more about the flourishing of art and culture and science, the Italian Renaissance. And so you can research about Renaissance humanism or Italian humanism, but it's Michelangelo and Leonardo and Donatello, all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Florence being sort of the heart of that. Um, Most of those folks were Christians. At least they said they were. You can't find a lot in many of their writings where they really talk about their religious views much, but they didn't attack religion really or the church. They just felt there should be a lot more emphasis on the here and now instead of all on the hereafter. Um, Now, fast forward a lot here to 1933, the A Humanist Manifesto, you may have heard of in 1933. This statement declaring humanism as the religion of the future. This was sometimes called religious humanism, rejecting supernatural beliefs, focusing on the inherent value of human life and the importance of reason, science, and ethical action to achieve personal fulfillment and a better society. It was signed by 34 people, all men, all white men, all highly educated Western white men. The most famous being John Dewey, famous philosopher and leader in education. But also almost half the signers were Unitarian ministers. And one was a Universalist minister, by the way, before the U and the U had become UU. So it's this very much rooted in our own history, humanism. 40 years later, Humanist Manifesto 2 totally abandoned the idea that humanism was a religion. So what's known more as secular humanism. But it otherwise basically continued the idea of rejecting theism and then also getting specific about things humanism was for: human rights, opposition to racism, opposition to weapons of mass destruction, particularly nuclear weapons, and in favor of the rights to unrestricted contraception, abortion, divorce, and death with dignity. This time around, there were a lot more signers. In fact, you can still sign this today, and so there are thousands and thousands. It's kind of an open thing, but some of the famous initial signers: Francis Crick, the co-discoverer of DNA, Julian Huxley, Isaac Asimov, Betty Friedan, James Farmer, A. Philip Randolph, and B.F. Skinner. A couple of these we're going to talk about more in a second. Now, moving forward today, what does humanism mean today? When people use that word, generally people have stopped calling it secular humanism. It's just humanism. And this definition that I've got up on the screen here, this is from a meeting that was held in 1996, International Humanists and Ethical Union, which now is just called Humanists International. And they have a great website with a lot of information, some of which I'm using today. So this is their less than 100 words definition. Humanism is a democratic and ethical life stance that affirms that human beings have the right and responsibility to give meaning and shape to their own lives. Humanism stands for the building of a more humane society through an ethics based on human and other natural values in a spirit of reason and free inquiry through human capabilities. Humanism is not theistic, and it does not accept supernatural views of reality. And I should point out, a lot of Christians and Muslims and other people of faith, those first two bullet points, they would have been all in. The last one kind of cuts them out. Humanism is defined as being essentially atheistic or agnostic, or at least rejecting the supernatural, put it that way. So what's the difference? I've got a series of questions in my answers, my understanding. So what is the difference between atheism and humanism? Are those just synonyms? Not really. Atheism, which Doug Kruger will talk about more next week, but it strictly means a lack of belief in any God. So it's sort of a negative. It's what you don't believe. Whereas humanism is more of a positive belief that humans should work together to build a better world. It's sort of like if you ask someone their religion and they said, well, I don't believe in leprechauns. Well, that's not much there. I mean, that covers a lot of people. So humanism is, like I said, trying to present a positive. One way to represent it, all humanists are atheists and agnostics. Not all atheists and agnostics are humanists. For instance, Ayn Rand, I never consider her name right, an objectivist or egoist. Stalin was an atheist. Hitler probably was, there's some debate over him, but he probably was an atheist. There's a famous person today, I don't want to say his name, but it rhymes with Elon Musk, who I think is an atheist, but I don't think is a humanist. So yeah, it's definitely possible to be an atheist and not be a humanist. How many humanists are there? Good question, and very difficult to answer, because humanism is not a religion, and it's not a church, there are no roles of attendance. And there are humanist organizations, American Humanist Association, and the one in Britain goes pretty strong, UK Humanists, but most people don't join those. A lot of humanists aren't joiners, so it's hard to know. When people are asked in surveys, the estimate worldwide is between 4 and 5 million would say, I'm a humanist. But then there are a lot of other people who wouldn't use that word who really are. So the number is much higher than that, but unknown, and that's okay. You've probably seen this chart or one like it. This one's from Gallup, asking people their religious preference. And from the peak in the 1950s, where it was close to 100% Christian, it's dropped. And that's one at 7%. That's other religions, besides Christianity, kind of all lumped together. What's noticeable, of course, is that the red dotted line increasing, the so-called nuns, not Catholic nuns, but N-O-N-E-S, no religion. Now, are all of those humanists? No. In fact, the majority of nuns, when asked, will say they do believe in God, but they don't particularly care for any specific religion. In other words, spiritual but not religious might be another way. Then probably at least half of those would say they believe in God, but they don't want to be pinned down any more than that. So is humanism a religion? No, it's not. It's more of a worldview or a philosophy of life. Is humanism anti-religion? No. So in the sense that humanism disagrees with supernaturalistic religions, I mean, if that's what you mean by anti-religion, okay, yeah, I guess so. But if you mean, are they wanting to stamp out religion? Are they hostile to people with religion? No. Humanists believe in open discussion and letting other people live their lives as they see fit. No, and would not support bigotry against religious people. How do humanists develop ethics and morals? This is a big question, and Doug may get into that some more next week. It's a huge question, and it's a valid one, and it's the one a lot of religious people struggle with. Like, how would I know what's right and wrong if I don't have a book or someone in a robe telling me what's right and wrong? How would I know? Well, the humanist answer is we use reason and experience, our own and that of other humans. Therefore, not all humanists agree on every specific question. There is debate. It is surprising to me how much agreement there is among humanists, just using reason and experience and what we've learned as a species of how we should treat each other and what's best for all of us. Are there any famous humanists? Huh. All right. The rest of today's message is I'm going to be sharing a couple. There are a couple. And I'm going to go kind of chronologically. I'm not going to try to mention all of them, but some that kind of jump to the top. Thomas Paine, who said, "The world is my country, all mankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion." Now he called himself a deist, but he was a very light on the deism part. And other founding fathers, by the way, who were deists, such as Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, I don't know if they were alive today, they might accept humanist as a good description of their beliefs. Charles Darwin, the love for all living creatures is the most noble attribute of man. Emily Dickinson, this is a famous poem, and she wrestled a lot with faith, and you can find her kind of experimenting different positions, but I think this is where she ended up. Some keep the Sabbath going to church. I keep it staying at home. With a bobolink for a chorister and an orchard for a dome. Some keep the Sabbath in surplus. I just wear my wings. And instead of tolling the bell for church, our little sexton sings. God preaches, a noted clergyman, and the sermon is never long. So instead of getting to heaven at last, I'm going all along. One of my faves, Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens. In fact, he's on my shelf back there in the white. And he's best known, of course, for writing things like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. He was also highly critical of religion, particularly Christianity, in his day. In fact, some of the things he wrote were so caustic, so radical that he asked that they not be published until after his death. And boy, in fact, there were some quotes I was going to share, but they're so negative, and I mean, he didn't hold anything back. So he was not a fan of religion. Another one of my favorites, Robert Ingersoll, known as in his lifetime as the great agnostic, and he went around the country and gave speeches. In fact, he came to Fayetteville in the 1890s and spoke. The religious leaders were not thrilled to have him in town, but people paid, I think it was $1 a person to go hear him speak. And he said this: reason, observation, and experience, the holy trinity of science, have taught us that happiness is the only good, and that the time to be happy is now, and the way to be happy is to make others so. part was even made into a song later. This is enough for us. In this belief, we are content to live and die. Albert Einstein, you've heard of this guy. There's controversy. He said some things that have been interpreted, are interpreted by believers that, yeah, he did believe in God. But he made clear that he did not believe in the idea of a personal God. He used the word God to mean like the universe. And so when you see quotes from him, first of all, they may not be things he ever said, but if he says God, that's what he means. If there is something in me which can be called religious, it is the unbounded admiration for the structure of the world, so far as our science can reveal it. And he was a member of something called ethical culture, very similar to humanism. Well, starting in the 1950s, the American Humanist Association started naming Humanists of the Year. And I'm not listing all of them. I picked out some that I thought would be more recognizable. I mean, super recognizable names that I won't read all of them, but you see there, yeah, some big names. And then some more after the 1980s. It's quite a roll call of scientists, intellectuals, authors, public figures, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of the recent ones, and the most recent one, Amy Goodman, who works with Democracy Now! And these are people I think most of us would admire. Bill Nye, the science guy, and Margaret Atwood. And of course, Carl Sagan, perhaps the patron saint of humanism, right? And wrote many things, said many things. I like this one. For small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love. Billions and billions of stars. Isaac Asimov, who was one of those, both he and Carl Sagan, Humanists of the Year, about using reason as a guide. He's sometimes called the father of robotics. He wrote science fiction, but I mean, people are going back to read his stuff now that AI is becoming such a thing, like, because he kind of saw what was coming. Kurt Vonnegut, who also identified as Unitarian, by the way. Being a humanist means trying to behave decently without expectation of rewards or punishment after you're dead. Margaret Atwood, The Handmaid's Tale is what she's best known for. I hope that people will finally come to realize there is only one race, the human race, and that we are all members of it. Stephen Fry is often a spokesman, particularly for the UK humanists. And this quote, humanism is an approach to life which encourages ethical and fulfilling living on the basis of reason and humanity and rejects superstition and religion. The most immediate aspect of living as a humanist is that we believe this life is all there is. So what we do and the choices we make really do count. Stephen Hawking, remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. He identifies himself as a humanist. Sir David Attenborough, in our hands lies not only our own future, but that of all living creatures with whom we share the earth. And a bunch of others. I mean, if you recognize these people, you know who they are. If you don't, probably me telling you their names wouldn't matter. Gene Roddenberry and Ricky Gervais, the great Randy. That's Orson Welles, by the way, bottom left. Stan Lee, kind of the genius behind the Marvel Universe. Love is a far greater force, a far greater power than hate. I think Renee just said something like that. And Kristen Bell, again, another kind of spokesperson for humanism. I'm of no religion, I'm a humanist. Now, for the last part of this, I wanted to say a little about humanism in the African American community. Most of the pictures I've shown you, most of the quotes are from white people. And the fact is, the majority of African Americans, the vast majority, are Christians. And it's complicated because the church has been the heart, really, of the Black community. Before the Civil War, and especially after the Civil War, the church was the one place where if you were Black in this country, you were free and you were in control to a large extent, whereas every other part of the world you were not. And so the church became not just a religious home, it's a social home, it's a political home, it's everything. And so it's very hard for African Americans to break from that, particularly in the South. But there are, I for time's sake won't read all of this, but there are a growing number of African Americans who are outing themselves, you might say, as humanists. And it is sort of like that. In fact, one Black humanist I read about, he said his parents were much more upset about him leaving the church than announcing he was gay. I mean, that was just a much bigger deal. So percentages of African Americans who say yes to these various questions about their belief and their practice. By the way, this chart didn't list Asian Americans, who would be the lowest on all of these same questions. A chart showing the younger you are, and this is true of all ethnic groups, younger people are less religious as a rule. And so particularly you look at the right-hand side of that, seldom or never attend. And you can see among the younger generations, it's pretty high, close to 50%, seldom or never attend church, whereas older generations are more likely to attend. There is a book, got it here and on screen there, that delves, there's several books, but this one in particular that I use delves into this question and naming names. And you see the one on the top left, Frederick Douglass. There he is. The most photographed man of the 19th century, actually. There is some debate over his religious beliefs. What we do know, he was incredibly critical of Christianity in the United States as it was being practiced. In fact, he had to put in one of his later editions of his autobiography, he had to put in a disclaimer saying, I'm not saying I hate all religions, because that's how it sounded. That's how strong. And if you read his narrative too, he often points out that the more religious his masters were, because he was owned by various ones, the harsher they were. And the less religious they were, the nicer they were, essentially. But I think he deep down was a humanist. Lucy Parsons, who also was something of an anarchist. We're tired of hearing about the golden streets of the hereafter. What we want is good paved and drained streets in this world. And then moving into the 20th century, W.E.B. Du Bois. And true for him and most of these, it's complicated because they don't want to totally attack the Black church in particular because of its role in nurturing resistance and keeping hope alive for so many people. At the same time, there's a criticism among some African Americans that the church, well, you've probably heard Karl Marx's phrase, religion is the opiate of the people. And the idea that the church sort of pacified people, and this is true for all ethnic groups, that kind of is a way of keeping the poor down to say, yeah, this life may be horrible, but someday it's going to be great. So don't mess things up. The Harlem Renaissance saw a huge, at least among Black intellectuals, a huge growth in basically rejecting religion. Carter Woodson, if you don't know who he is, he's considered the father of Black history and also the creator of Black History Month. So he's a pretty big name. Langston Hughes, probably have heard of, and he made waves for his opposition to religion. Zora Neale Hurston, who wrote Their Eyes Were Watching God, which might be a surprising book title when you realize she was definitely a humanist, and believed that this universe was enough, no need for extra things. James Weldon Johnson, who's most famous for writing the song Lift Every Heart and Sing, but he was, what are you saying, Renee? Lift every voice and sing. Thank you. He said, I do not know if there's a personal God. I do not see how I can know. And I do not see how my knowing can matter. What does matter is how I deal with myself and my fellows. Richard Wright, famous for writing Native Son, among other things. A. Philip Randolph, sometimes called the grandfather of the civil rights movement. He was an inspiration to many of those in the civil rights movement and a labor organizer among the Pullman porters. Definitely a human. In fact, he was one of the signers of the 1973 Humanist Manifesto. And there you see Martin Luther King Jr., who was not a humanist, although I feel like he was close to us, standing with three people who were humanists. Harry Belafonte, A. Philip Randolph, and Sidney Poitier. Butterfly McQueen, you see there, Paul Robeson. Two of the key leaders in the civil rights movement, James Forman with SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and James Farmer of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. Lorraine Hansberry, who wrote A Raisin in the Sun, publicly and openly identified as a humanist. And one of the great humanists of our time, Black or white, James Baldwin, so eloquent and powerful. How about, are there any living African-American humanists? Yeah, there are, who are famous. There are. You again, if you recognize them, you know who they are. If you don't, be telling you their names probably wouldn't mean that much. Are there some others who just don't say it out loud? Nearly kind of, sort of, almost humanist, maybe? Because coming out and saying it is so difficult and radical, and it generally, I mean, this is true of white people, but it's even more true for African Americans. Coming out and saying you're a humanist does not win you any fans. It does not sell more books. It does not make more people vote for you. It's going to hurt. And so some of these, I wonder, might be like Mark Twain, that they leave something behind. They say, after I'm gone, tell people. I really was. Some who are very super open about it. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a humanist, as is Alice Walker, author of The Color Purple. And this guy, who I'm going to nominate as our living patron saint. I don't care if you're white, black, purple, or pink. He's the man. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's my man. The good thing about science is that it's true whether you believe in it, whether or not you believe in it. Hear, hear. And you know, this kind of sums it up. Someone who does the right thing, even though no one's watching, and you're not going to be rewarded. That's a humanist. All right. I'm going to stop there, and we're going to sing a song that Renee has for us. And I guess people will just sing along at home.
Yes, that would be great. Jean, thank you. That was enlightening and fabulous. And thanks for mentioning "Lift Every Voice and Sing," the national anthem of African American people in the United States.
Yep.
The hymn that we're going to do is called "Wake Now My Senses." Jean, we're only going to do the first 4 verses of this, okay? FYI. And the beginning lines of these first 4 verses: "Wake now my senses, wake now my reason, wake now compassion, and wake now my conscience." These are part of our humanist ideals, excuse me. So, let's sing it together. I will sing and you sing along. Wake now my senses and hear the earth's call. Deep in the power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty of wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the whole sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. And it's okay if you don't believe in God. I don't know why they put God at the end of that line, but that's okay. It's okay if you don't believe in God. All right, that's it. Thanks, y'all.
We'll take it as Albert Einstein's definition of God, right? The universe, nature, the world, everything.
That's right.
All right. Great quote from Rosa Parks. I've learned over the years that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Have your mind made up. All right. I don't think there's anything else, so let's extinguish that chalice, Renee.
Okay. Rainbow and I are going to extinguish the chalice.
I want Rainbow to do it.
Okay, Rainbow, you do it. We extinguish this flame, but not the light
Truth.
of truth,
The warmth
the
of community.
unity, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Okay, Rainbow, let's do it. Thanks, y'all.
Amen and blessed be. I have a final quote here from Gloria Steinem. In case there are children listening, I'll edit. The truth will set you free, but first it will tick you off. So, for any listening, young listening ears. And someone, was it you, Renee? Someone said they have this on their refrigerator.
I have it on my refrigerator. Yes.
So one of the traditions, one of the things we used to do in the olden days at the end was to invite people. If you need to go, that's fine. But if you want to stick around and talk and chat and say hi, you're welcome to do that. I think we're gonna have some music playing in the background.
Go now.
But it's the Wild West. Just unmute and have at it.
The Wild Wild West.
We have
We have a dance for that.